Alright, Chapter 8, Structural Items. We can't avoid with the top of the structure forever because you have the need with the conservative structure for the pretty much more than you need with the project. I had it better as with the first half of the book before we get to carry it out. Adding structural grids, adding structural columns, structural framing, understanding foundation system, adding structural footings, on using structural views, adding structural grids, new Autodesk, Revit architecture, Autodesk, Revit structure, Revit ME applications with the plugin to give it the complete application for the no separate standalone application for the different trades, the architect, the chain flow, selection structural tools, structural consultant with how the develop the structural design project that's been doing. You and your structural consultant, the chapter explorer of the structural world, presenting the basic function structural architect first item to tackle you the item first of the panel structural grids. Although using structural grids line by one to discover that all the grids are smaller, but the rest of the Revit, the trying point with the things are structural the most certain within the grid. Revit you're quickly find with the placing of the structural grid into the model isn't a complicated task. Revit is essentially placing on one line item with the lines you place without overly intelligent. For example, if you place a vertical grid line called A, then place the horizontal grid called line called 1. Intersect the A with A, you have the grid location column with the intersection column. Assume with a newly create property called location guess at A1. Let's get started. Let's begin with the opening of the be using the following along. If you didn't complete the previous chapter 8, you'll find in experience required 08 RVT template. So once again, vertical lines are going to be A, and horizontal grid lines are going to be numbers. Place a grid. Placing a grid means that the drawing grid lines one by one with a copy of the grid. Grids to speed for the placement, but arraying them spacing rectangular sounds is tedious work. Working chain with the other application force of the grid, an entire rectangular grid, which will keep it depicting, but they resemble the layout with the grids that allow like snowflakes now and now two are the same. Place a grid with these following step for the project. Browse over the go to level 1 floor plan, measure for the level 1 ceiling plan. Zoom in the east wing radial entry with the datum panel, hold the level and grid tools appearance on the architectural strap, structural tab, datum plan, structural tab, clear button shown figure 8.1. On draw panel, modify place grid tab, click the pick lines icon shown figure 8.2. Pick a center of the north wall grid bubble that needs to be removed. There's escape click, modify with it, and clear with the command select with the grid bubble, notice for the ground with a blue grid similar to figure 8.3. Pick with the round blue grid, drag with the column bubble to the right about 50 feet from figure 8.4. On the datum plan, click with the grid button again, and datum panel pick the lines is not picked already. Core center line interior wall terminates for the exterior wall shown figure 8.5. Scroll to the right in line as a grid with the grid 1, snaps weekly, as remove the line and the length of it. 1, pick the second point, the line appears. Tip alignment lines, however, you can be tricky to display the percentage of the zoom that can affect getting an alignment line. Simply zoom back in small amount whether they will appear. If the grid button does not appear on the right button side shown rather than left side with the blue checkbox with the right side with the grid 2 pick on with the doing so with the turn on the grid head. On the left side with the grid 2 with the grid bubble and with the same blue checkbox turn on with the grid able to location press escape. Being able to pick lines certain advantage but it won't be easy. Always in a situation with the geometry place to do so following procedure. Add grid 3 by picking 2 points. Click with the grid button on architectural structural panel section, select line icon. Notice I center reference plane shown figure 8.6. Pick second point alignment with the grid 2. Add grids 4 and 5 exact opposite into the east wing. You need to add 2 or more 45-degree angles, easy with the drawing lines of the object for the manipulate the grids to read appropriate numbering. Architectural grab grid button with not selected already. Press the center of the radial wall. Draw the line 45 degrees until beyond the radial wall is shown in figure 8.8. Bubbles over the angle grid. Rename the grid line 2.1. You can do this by placing grids, clicking outside the grid number field with the entire change. Draw another grid line at 45-degree angles opposite direction. Remember to read it 3.9. You'll need to more horizontal columns to the lines to span length of the building. Your numbers lines 2.10 and 3.1. You'll run center corridor walls to do with the pick lines on the draw panel with these steps. Architectural tab grid buttons not selected already. Draw panel pick lines icon core center with the north corridor wall shown in figure 8.9. Pick the blue grip at the end of the line, stretch the line with the already placed with the bubbles, figure 8.10, show the bubble button, necessary for the rename of the grid 2.10. Too many other grid lines, slowly select bubbles, check with the necessary, repeat with the process, south corridor, additional grid lining 3, number 3.1, shown figure 8.11. Grid lines are laying out. It looks like you should be made adjusted to move of the bubbles on below with adding an elbow to the grid end. Adding elbows as with level, you can break the line of the grid, allowing you to make an adjustment for the grid with the arm with an elbow following the modified selection 10 to 10. Blue grips appear with a pick of the one appear with the break line shown figure 812. Pick the break line and the elbows with the grid line shown figure 813. Repeat procedure with the grid line 831. Now look at the figure 83. Save with the model. It's now time to add vertical grid line. Simple place with the get radial entry line at point with some additional manipulating grids. Adding vertical grids. Only real issue with adding vertical grids numbering versus lettering because of the Revit continues sequencing horizontal grids. Make sure that adding the first going in the opposite direction of the renumber the first occurrence of the grid. Whichever the next procedure for the grid, the pattern running vertically across the view zooms out so you can see with the entire east wing data panel architectural tab grid button, draw panel, modify grid tab, picking lines icon, pick center line west exterior wall of the east wing. 5. Pick wall with the grid added, but it doesn't have the name of the number you want. You change for the first pick of the round blue grip, and then drag with the bubble up to the dimensions shown figure 815 and press escape. So for the new vertical grid, I have the bubble to rename A is shown figure 817. Duplicate for the grid I have with an RSO modify commands under the belt button. Best way to duplicate is grids with a copy is shown following steps. Select grid A, modify with the grips copied button shown in the top of the figure 8, so with the options, multi-check box is selected, open left, then pick the base point along with the grid line over the wall, cover the grid wall into the center lines of the grid lines auto sequence as you go. Press escape, try start grid command again, and draw panel, switch the line button, select the start button, end point, and over the radial wall, intersect with the straight wall shown with the near over the bottom. Pick the second point with the line adjacent to grid bubbles. Press escape with the grid bottom over the line. Drag down into the pass over the south part of the radial wall. Next step with the add with the grid radial entry area with the easy with simple picking wall center line. Trick the establish reference point with the place with the grid encircling sequential column. Adding a radial grid line. Sometimes you think of the outside of the box a little because you have the radial geometry for the content of the radial grid line. Zoom in the radial entry with the east wing grid location. The architectural grid command is currently running on draw panel with the pick line buttons is shown figure 8, 9, 10. Type offset value 6 inches for the option bar. Pick up the first inside finish tray for the radial wall. Make sure the alignment indicating where the grid wall is in the inside wall. Grid bubbles laying in the congested area. Fix the adding with the elbow. Adjusting bubbles with it shown on the grid C within the top of the figure 820. The last thing you need to do, make sure the grid extends all the way to the west side of the east of the building. Major roll, start with the place for the column, select with the grid icon, left of the grid line, grid left over the past west wall of the procedure grid 2, 2, 10, 3, 1, 4, and 5. Repeat spread procedure stretching vertical grid south, including A, B, C, D, E, and the drag lower end of the grade A with a copy to B, C, D, E. We'll move with it. Making lower and grip level F snaps in alignment with the others. I think you give it the picture of adding grid. The next picture, you'll be adding some columns to these grid sections so you can explore with the structure tab on the ribbon. Adding structural columns hard part is over to determining whether the part is more difficult physical placement of the model with because of the rules of the following as well as the rule of the bin in order to accomplish the results as you see with the next year with the procedure including additional structural components for the model, placing framing systems, the area of the structural engineer made to defer the architectural structural integrity, give it a design intent to add columns to about model of the columns of the project browser level 1 floor, zoom in the radial entry with the east wing. On the structure tab, choose column structural columns to figure in 821 or the tickle architectural tab, close with the load family button shown figure 822. Browse US Imperial structural columns steel or metric structural column steel folder HSS hollow structural section HSS hollow structural section column. Dialog open and enable. You select the type as shown figure 823. Selection HSS 6 by 6 by 5, 8th column, click OK, option bar, make sure the height is set with the roof is shown figure 824, column grid section of F1 and do press escape, choose the column, structural column, architectural tab column, grid intersection 5-2 before you place the item, column and the height of the roof, place another column, the grid intersection 5 F and G, select column you place within the column F and G, properties of the make sure the top level is set to be up to the roof is shown figure 826 just as check. Mirror the three columns opposite entry with the columns in line 3 of reference plane, same model. Let's add some full height columns at the rest of the grid locations of the begin with the radial grid with the place for the rest of the columns in the wall by exterior in the corridor steps. On structural tab, click for the column button. Option bar with the height is set for the roof. And hover over the cursor over the grid section G2-1. You can see with the column, but is running orientation spacer bar. Keyboard column rotates the line with the grid shown figure 827. When the column says align, pick the insertion point. The column is placed. Repeat the steps to 3 and 3-9. Now place the column in the main part of the viewing wing. Place the column at every grid location. Now you strip the column lines left side of the wing. You should ask for the certain grid bubble to the west and south of the building, shown figure 828. To add columns intersection, follow these structural column command. Modify place structural column 10. Add grid button on multiple panels, shown figure 829. So we go from vertical column to add grid intersections. Place window or rectangular portion east wing from the right to left and shown figure 830. Modify place structural column grid intersection tab change allow whether either finish or cancel. With the as you have the window place check with the finish button with multiple panels shown at the top of the figure 830. Press escape. Quite a few columns are placed. You need to move them. You'll need to move some of them, including 4 columns on the quarter intersection. Revit it will still locate each column on the grid section intersection, but it will offset with the column's property problems. When the create column offset with the following step: zoom in the middle east wing corridor intersection. Select the 2 columns on the left corridor shown in. Move the columns 4 foot to the left. Repeat same procedure for the other 2 columns. Zoom in the door shown in figure 832. Move the column left to the 4 foot. Then structural engineer to allow the engineer extremely understand. Save the model. That is enough columns for now, but it's time to move with adding structural for the framing primary canopy area surrounded with the east entry of the east wing using structural framing. Although you won't create much structural framing in the Revit architectural, you'll need to add framing in a few areas. Canopy with light structural framing are certain one area of the called area could call architecture to wander over the structure at high defense. Beginning of structural framing following along with the project browser, go to level 2 floor plan, zoom with the radial A entry area with the select columns F1 and F5 with these columns outside of the building. Property dialog top level 2 with the makes of the column disappear with a moment. Press escape with the property dialog, scroll down view row and click the edit button. Dialog options primary range section bottom offset 1 foot 0 inches. For view depth set, the offset of the 1 foot 0 inches shown figure 833. Click OK as you see the column. Now select the structural frame, zoom into the northeast corner and east wing. Here are the steps: structural panel, beam button shown figure 834. Click load family button, browse structural framing steel, HSS structural section. RFA specified type dialog HSS 6x6x5/8 for the first point column E with a buried in the corner of the wall. Second point with the exterior F1 shown figure 835. I can't see my grids. If your grids aren't shown on the second floor file, go back to level 1, select all your grids, click the propagate extent button, and select the floors we want to see on the grids. But with the beams command is still running with the exterior column F1 and F2 figure 836. To press escape, draws beam 6 inches of the finished face of the wall, starting with the top of the beam, ending column line 2 shown figure 837. This beam will later be supported by framing within the building. In the view control bar of the visual style wireframe allows you to see the beam of the walls you're about to draw with the drawing. Another beam left to right inside of the wall shown figure 838. Save the model. Why is cutting back the beams? Well, it's an inherent function of the Revit to draw your own framing to aim into for the beam center lines. Keep the connection point for the correct location, but we'll trim back the beam for you. You do for the cutbacks by using beam column joins tool with the geometry panel with a modify tab. Now let's add some filler beams. Revit architectural add for the beam of the system of the controller specified spacing after systems in place. You can control the property for the duration of the project. Alright, adding a beam system. Although adding a beam system for the Revit is more crucial for the structure, usual architectural level that having the ability to space with a framing system and equally to quite advantage of the creative of the beam system, following along with the procedure on the structural panel with the structural tab of the beam system button with the shown figure 839. Make sure automatic beam system button is picked as shown figure 840. Tag on the placement button. Options bar HSS 6x6x5/8. Set on the beam type selection. Change the layout with a maximum spacing figure 841 distance field of 4 foot 0 inches. Change the tag style of the framing. Hover the cursor over the top and horizontal beam shown with an 842 and over the green dash lines this is where your beams were placed. With the green lines of the pick up at the top of the beam where the framing is placed. Click here to modify the mirror with the canopy other side of the radial entry, being careful not to mirror the columns accidentally. May receive the members of the bearing with a structural member with a non-bearing wall. Click with the make wall bearing button. By using the beam system plan, you easily quickly add multiple or current with the frame members in such case that you need the uniform member with a different plate with or not such as lateral bracing. Adding bracing. If you wanted to add a right atop canopy to the angle, you can accomplish with the brace command. To do so with the need to load with the rod considerable of the family and Revit into the modeled brace command with the first add with the rod family to the mount insert tab of the ribbon and the load family button. Browse structural framing steel open file round bar north elevation browse. Notice for the grid lines A and F are visible in the view. Very useful. The properties panel with the north elevation chain with the detail level, the fine and visual style with the shade. Zoom into the east canopy on structural panel structural tab brace button shown figure 844. Revit displays dialog asking you specific work plane and the name drop down lies grid 1 shown figure 845 and then click OK. View of the round bar 1 inch of its current framing member with the type selector with the diagonal brace shown figure 846. If I'll let you eyeball this one more and you make a top offset specific increment. Go to level 2 frame, quick access toolbar, section bar button, place section along column F shown figure 847 starting with a point of 1 ending at point 2 open the section. Rename the framing of the northeast canopy, change the detail level to define visual state of shade, structural panel, structural tab, click brace button, choose grid F as a work plane, click OK, diagonal rod between points shown figure 848, press escape. Figure 847 is a cutting section through the framing, and then it shows the defining points of the end of the column between the attaching rod. Figure 849, using rods. Mirror the rods of the other canopies. Open with the east elevation. Do so. Save the model with pretty much cover the frame of the section. Will bring understanding of the foundation. Although structural engineering specify the foundation system, the architect's makes of the foundation tool plate for the concrete walls fill as walls strip and isolate footings and piers for the new section addresses these topics. Understanding footing system. First question of the rise with addressing structural foundation was for the architect place with the foundation of the model with the structural engineering place from their model. What will happen in the structural engineer method with call of the copy monitor, the engineer takes the architectural foundation, makes it their own, but the engineer freely alter the foundation of the mouth with the dressless functional, fully and importing coordinating models of the section focus for the creating foundation wall, although editing the shape of the wall similar to editing the architectural wall, there are a few things you need to be aware of. For now, let add foundation deal with the coordinator later with the task before with creating a foundation wall called 18 inches solid concrete to produce these steps. Go to level 1 floor plan, click wall structure button, structure tab, same tool, architectural tab, type selector for the property dialog box, generic 8 masonry to edit type button. Edit type button, duplicate button, name of the new wall, 18-inch concrete, shown figure 850, click OK, just one under the wall function row of the core scale flow pattern row, change the hatch to concrete, and by clicking on the whatever button and then concrete from the menu, click OK, edit button, structure now, second row later, chart material cell, click button for concrete cast in place and select it and click OK, change thickness 1 foot 6 inches, by typing 1 space 6 is shown figure 851, click OK twice. You're about to play for the wall under the level of the view is currently not shown with the showing anything below the level of the archer view range, modify with the view range shown with the press escape with the scroll down view range of the property dialog edit button with the primary range set bottom offset with a 1 foot 0 inch view depth level offset 1 foot 0 inches click OK structural wall commanded and again draw panel pick lines icon foundation walls or pot place top down depth rather than height appear for the option bars make sure the depth of the TL footing of the justification wall center line with the exterior wall shown figure 852. Pick every exterior wall in all 3 sections of the model. Your 3D model should look like the figure 853, getting in the habit view of the model 3D, explaining exactly where the walls are being placed. You can travel the ground, checking with the hover over the walls or joining some of the cleanup involved in the project browser. Double click with the TO footing floor plan, zoom in the exterior east wing area of the north elevator meets foundation wall. This is an area issue where the walls are funky and shown figure 854. It's like masonry elevator shaft wall to drag end blue grip the wall out to the abutts of the foundation wall. Masonry wants the need to be joint foundation. To do this joint geometry button. Modify tab shown figure 855. Pick foundation wall. Pick masonry wall. Masonry wall is notched back for the foundation. Repeat the procedure with the south of the elevator conditioner may suit the same differently with the north elevator, but process to fix the same. Shows the concrete cast and the walls that have been we would like what they're like. Adjoining walls of the foundation terminate expertise. Expected. Move to the west wing, you just need to fix one wall. Split command is from zoom in the area from figure 856. Shows the splitting of the foundation wall to the profile of the wall above. Modify with the tab split element button, option bar, delete inner segment checkbox, pick points, mark 1 and 2 with the escape twice. Those foundation walls are in place. Let's think of the wall with a bearing on it, or Revit Archer tool head with the adding footings on the bottom of the walls. Adding structural footings. If you're going so far as placing structural foundation walls, you might as well continue placing footings underneath them. Lucky isn't a difficult task. Before you begin adding structural footings into the place, acknowledge that the default isn't set with the C with the object physically below its level correctly. You must alter the view range specifically of this specific plan. These are the files. Making sure you own the TO footing plan, the property dialog view range row. Click edit primary range bottom to unlimited view, depth level to unlimited shown figure 857. Click OK to foundation panel, the structural tab wall button and shown figure 858. So we go to foundation walls. Add top property dialog box bearing at 3612 inches, a little big with your purpose to let new footing in the property dialog box. Edit type button. Click duplicate new footing element bearing footing 30 foot 12 inch bearing footing. Click OK, trim the width setting at 2 foot 6 inches 859. Click OK to get a mile. Start picking all of the footing centered under each wall of the pick. Ignore the elevator shaft that you finish making of the walls. Go to 3D view. Make sure that all the foundation covered in figure 860. When all your footings are in place, you can see that the need to focus on the elevator shaft because the entire foundation mat is required under the elevation of the structural slab. Structural slabs are basically thick floors. Once you're about to use a solid with a concrete floor, 12 inches of the core of the Revit doesn't have something that is built in its library, so you'll take the opportunity to make one. Here are some steps. Go to the TO footing floor plan, zoom to the elevator area, foundation panel, structural tab, close slab, structural foundation slab, shown in figure 861. In property panels, at the type of click duplicate, click next slab, 12-inch elevator slab, click OK. Click edit button, structure row, layers field the chain with the thickness 1 foot and shown figure 862. Click OK back at the model draw panel, verify the pick wall button, select the option bar set with the offset 1 foot 0 inches of 3 foot elevator shaft wall shown figure 863. Set offset back to 0, so that pick line button with the verify offset with 0 with the pick and some of the exterior foundation wall with the next perimeter, show with the trim with the trim edge to make sure that you have a continuous closed loop, modify panel clear trim, extend with the corner button the trim overlapping corner shown figure 864. Floor panel right to the create floor boundary tab, finish edit mode, repeat process with the south of the elevator, go to 3D view. If your slopes look more stripping footing is shown figure 865, hover the coaster inside with the one foundation until the elevator shaft openings are highlighted. Select elevator shaft opening, property dialog box, change base, offset to 0 view should look like figure 866. When the footings are mostly in place, you think about the placing of the pier spreading the footings in the foundation. Luckily, you soon discover you already know how to do this. Alright, piers and spreading footings. Piers and pillars are simply put in the concrete columns. It's how Revit sees these items following the easiest placement method. The nice thing about the technique is that the grids are in places where all the steel columns and with a bearing on them. The only real trick is deciding where to plan to put them in. Objective of the next procedure to add pilots over to support the columns near the bearing. Over them to follow the steps returned with the TO footing plan. Structural panel, structural tab, column button, insert tab, load family button shown on the top of the figure 867. Browse structural columns, concrete file, create a concrete square column, open, type selector, select 24 by 24 column, verify height, set level to 1. Begin placing column of the grid intersection shown figure 867, U the add grid speed over the work process, save it, then go to level 1, zoom in the core, move the pier zone with the columns that they removed before. Do the same for the pier zone with the doorway shown figure 868, with delete the column footing that appears D1 through D5. Now add the spreading footings under the pier for the process almost identical to previous. Go back to the TO footing, floor plan, foundation panel, structural tab, isolated foundation button. No structural foundations are loaded into the project. Click yes, browse structural foundations, select footing rectangular. Click OK and property dialog box, edit type button, duplicate, create a new footing, 36 by 36 by 12. Click OK, width of 36, length of 36, and the thickness of 12. Click OK, add these footings to each of the pair. Add columns option with multiple panel works. All grids will speed up your work, where foundation plan should resemble figure 869. Having a foundation place, the architectural plan, both good and the bad, it can be bad because the structural item begins with appearing in the places you may not want them to see them. Let's proceed with the chapter involves isolating with the structure from the architecture using structural views. Being structural view essential to duplicate architectural view, hitting non-essential items in the view sounds easy, but that's because it is. Before you get started, you're going to remove some structural views that Revit provided for you with the create structural views file. Shift the project browser the structural plan category. Seal the structural plans in the category. Right click and select delete the plans. In the browser project, go to floor plans, right click the TO footing, select the duplicate view with the duplicate with the detailing as shown with figure 8, with the new view openings. So we went to the architectural floor plans, we went to TO footing, we went to duplicate view, and we duplicate with the detailing. Renaming the view called the TO footing to the TO structural plan, the discipline category view property, select the structural from the list as shown figure 871 section disappears. So we now went to section and in the graphic, the TO floor footing, and then we went to discipline and structural. Project browser, right click views all shown in figure 872. Right click in the project browser, select the browser organization discipline option shown in figure 873, and then click OK. Now the project browser is broken into categories that will help you find the live project with a mix for the structural architect for the guiding easy level to make a level 1 architectural plan truly architectural. Let's file with the open level 1 floor plan architectural. Scroll down view range edit button view range row. Change both the view and the depth offsets to view 0. Click OK. The foundation information no longer displayed in level 1 floor plan. Although the last part of the chapter was scroll with a nice look into the project browser to show how it began. To organize it would be like to practice with the project browser on your own. Organize it would you like. Are you experienced? Now you can place a structural grid in your model using the architectural walls as reference to additional grid and radius or stretches where needed. Add columns to grid lines, adding columns offset, keep the relation with the grid intersection intact. Add structural beams to the model. Add structural beam systems which can follow center rules, equal distance spacing using brace command to create brace framing to be used for both architectural appointment structural bracing. Creating entire foundation systems complete with the foundation walls and piers and spread footings. Organization project browsers to show the model broken into the discipline. Change view discipline to the structural. Alright. Chapter 9, Ceilings and Interiors.